So pretty much, I'm just wondering, raise your hands, has anyone ever like put any like electrical stuff into any of their cosplays, or just thought about doing it before?
I want to know.
All right, cool. So pretty much the basics of this stuff is, when I say apply technology to like cosplays, that's not just like something crazy like this. This is over the top. I mean, you can do it in the most basic ways as possible. Like, I got a few examples which I'll show you guys later, but there's a few ways of actually implementing these electronics into your cosplays. So, but I'll kind of give you guys the basics. So there's a few things you can actually do to put this stuff into your cosplay. So the main stuff you can put in is, most common are lights. So that's really common in a lot of like cosplays, either like if it's not something crazy like this, maybe it's like some LEDs that they like implement in there, or it's something else just to kind of like be a little flashy, maybe some LEDs, kind of like the front lights. So just something to like almost draw your eye or just like add to the cosplay. And then there's stuff like audio, which obviously I got plenty of that right here. But audio is an awesome way to kind of add on to your cosplay. So pretty much from audio, it changes like people's idea of your cosplay a lot, because you can either walk around in like your regular cosplay and people are like, oh, that's really cool. But then if you got like, for example, I see Sailor Moon over there. Awesome cosplay, by the way. You can play like stuff like, if you have a speaker or something, you can play like Sailor Moon theme song or any other songs from it, so that way people will like look and be like, oh, I see what that is, and they think it's really cool because they got a mix of audio and visual to kind of actually get a better response from people. Like, it's a perfect example if you're trying to do a presentation or something, which we're not going to do because we're lazy and stuff. So, but pretty much it's awesome. Audio is an awesome way to actually like bring your cosplay, at least in my opinion, to like a higher level. But like, not gonna lie, a lot of cosplays I've seen, even just like straight up, are really cool. Like, mine's pretty basic compared to all these other ones, not gonna lie. Like, even though this looks really insane, a lot of these other cosplayers, they're way better than me, so I'll say that right away. But then there's a couple other things you can kind of do. So pretty much for some of this, you can either do wired for audio, or you can do Bluetooth. Like, I kind of have a mix of both. Like, these two speakers are actually Bluetooth speakers, which I wired up to a Bluetooth splitter, so I don't have a cord, but you can do either or for audio. And then finally, you can try to do something like, if you're really good at that kind of stuff, you can try to put an intercom in there, which I attempted to do for this convention, but it didn't work very well. So we're working on that for next con. But so I'll kind of give you guys some examples of what to do, and like show you kind of how to like, I guess, either keep it hidden or hidden in plain sight, like I do with a lot of my stuff. So perfect example is, like I was saying, a Bluetooth speaker. That's really easy to kind of hide. You can either just set it in your back pocket or something, and you can still have music, or if you somehow implement it in, that's also really cool. So a lot of these, that's why it's helpful, like for my thing, I'm wearing all black, so I always try to carry some sort of black speaker, so that way I can have some sort of audio with me at all times. And then there's the obvious plain insight kind of thing, where it's this stuff, where it's part of my like cosplay and stuff, but it's right there, but a lot of you don't notice it until you see the music coming from it and all the other things. So that's kind of like the main two ways to hide audio. Like I said, plain sight, or like hidden off to the side. So then I'll move on to lights. So pretty much, lights you can do multiple ways. Like I said, you can do something like this, where it's a big old party dome and it lights up a whole room. Or I can do something like this, which there's multiple ways of actually doing the lights up front. So, if you didn't all see already. Pretty good lights up there. And like I said, you can do it multiple ways, where you can either, I have it so it's USB powered, because personally, in my opinion, it's a little easier to work with. So that way, if you ever need to get more, all you gotta do is unplug the wires from the strip, and then you can plug in a new one. So if you want it longer or shorter, you can usually buy that stuff for like $10 online. So that's what's nice about these. But then if you want to get crazy with it, there are other ways of actually implementing lights. So there's the actual like wiring and soldering, and if you know about that, that's awesome. I personally didn't do that because I just want to keep it on basic and then work on 2.0 in the future. But, so for the most part, USB power and then actually soldering, and then if you get really crazy with it, there's some of these little things that you can buy and you can actually like wire it up. It's almost like a mini computer that you wire up, and I think it's called like Raspberry Pi or something. It's something really weird like that. Just,
Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. I was trying to remember exactly what it was, but that's something that you can like wire pretty much all of it to that one little like system, so that way you don't have a bunch of other stuff like off to the side. You just got all of it one big system. It's super nice. But then, so moving on to another type of light. So this is one of my personal favorites, just due to the fact it's so easy, but it's so cool at the same time. So pretty much if any of you have seen anything like this, it's stuck on all my other samples like that. I'll get that later. But pretty much another good example of lighting is this nice LED wire. So you can get this stuff for super cheap. And you just got a little battery pack, and you can switch it from just blinking to like high blinking. So that way, if you're doing anything at night or you want some extra like, I guess, pop to your cosplay, you can definitely do that. So I actually use this for my Mega Man cosplay, which is what this thing is, which I'll tell you about that in a sec. But from a Mega Man cosplay, it really helped out because it kind of made it look like some like blue energy was around me, kind of powering up the cannon. So if you're doing something like that, it's really cool. Oh yeah, that's a good example. So pretty much another thing you can do is if you can get something that you can cut, you can almost like put it inside some of your stuff. Yeah. Yeah, sure. So that way.
So easy way to do it would be kind of fill it in the gaps right here. You know, tape it in so it glows. You guys can see that, kind of adds a little bit of light to it. Yeah, it's like an LED light.
You can probably find that stuff on Amazon or whatever. If you just want to search it up, it's not very hard to find. I didn't found mine like that. In fact, I stumbled upon it. I wasn't even looking for it when I found it. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, I'll test it out and see how that rolls. Might implement it into this thing later, but I'm gonna see if I can find a wire that I can change color like all this other stuff. Because having color changing stuff is so helpful. But for the most part, those are the main types of like lights you can do. Once again, there's other stuff where there's like bigger LEDs you can put in. Like if you can get some stuff to actually do it yourself and like figure out how to wire your own, it's awesome. Like I said, I kind of just threw this together and I just did it easy. But if you want to do it more complex and more permanent, there's definitely ways of doing that. But for the most part, these are the main few ways. Like so, ball speaker. For like low speaker, then there's the front LEDs, and then you got stuff like LED wire, which is super helpful. So moving on to another thing that I want to show you. This is one of those things where I was saying hiding stuff in plain sight. So for car enthusiasts, this is a really big muffler, or muffler tip, I should say. I'm tired, guys. Give me a break. Okay, so obviously, this looks like an exhaust. So, nothing too crazy. But what I did to it is store it behind it first. I was like, oh, I'm doing Mega Man, I need to have some sort of arm cannon. And then I got bored, and I was in Advanced Auto Parts. I'm like, that's an awesome muffler. Or, I'm sorry, exhaust. And I'm like, I'm gonna get that. So then I decided to implement it into a cosplay. So I did like a motorcycle style Mega Man. How I modified that was I took a little tube speaker, if you guys, if you want to walk around with that. I took a little specific speaker I used was the Skull Candy landmine, or sound mine. Skull Candy sound mine, and I just taped it up so it fit inside that exhaust tip. And then from there, I put a little padding on the inside so it wouldn't like mess up my wrist too much. And then from there, I walked around playing some of Mega Man tunes just so people can kind of like see it. And then I had a lot of people just like, oh yeah, I recognized you from the music. And I'm like, it's awesome. So that's one of the ways I was kind of talking about how music can kind of help cosplay, because a lot of people, if I wasn't playing that music, they would have had no idea what I actually was supposed to be. So it's kind of cool, interesting to test out, but it was definitely fun to work on and kind of try and get that to work. So once again, those are one of those things where it's hiding in plain sight, where it's like, everyone's like, oh, where's that music coming from? And then you just have it on your arm, and then you just like, how you actually play music from it, and it's pretty loud too, so it's kind of helpful. But moving on to other, like, I guess I'll stick more to audio. So when you're actually at a convention, yes, this is a tip on what kind of music you play more instead of just audio in general. So the type of music you should play at conventions is, and I'm sorry to sound like security, I promise the hat is not what I am. So, but pretty much I recommend playing stuff that's more appropriate, because at most of these cons, obviously, there's kids. You don't want to be playing stuff and pissing off parents. So, but pretty much you want to play stuff that, at least in my opinion, will get people kind of motivated and pumped up. No matter like what cosplay you're doing, I definitely recommend playing stuff that's like more upbeat. If you don't want to play some like nice and slow stuff, like everyone's on the move at a con, they want to get rolling, like they want to have fun, so you don't want to play them like super slow stuff. I mean, you can if you want. I'm not telling you no, like it's your stuff. But I recommend playing something a little bit more upbeat. Like perfect example, somebody does Wayne Williams. So I posted online saying, oh yeah, if you got song recommendations for me to play at the con, let me know, because I'll play them for you. So when you ask that, I can play some. Thank you, I will be playing them for you. Second, pretty much it's a matter of, if you suggested a song that was maybe on the slower end, I tried to find some sort of remix that you will recognize, obviously, because not every remix sounds like a song. Try to find remixes that sounded similar, but it was more like upbeat and kind of like a dance moving kind of music. So that's something I definitely like recommend. You can put like speakers in your cosplay, so that way you're actually able to get people kind of motivated and be like, oh, that's really cool, like kind of dance music. Because no one just wants to look at you and be like. So, yeah, but that's the main stuff on the audio, and I'll kind of show you my main examples. So I'll move on to this one, because this is my first, or the debut of my amazing, fantastic, kind of broken SpeakerHead. So, as you can see, it's just a bunch of speakers glued together. I don't know what else to tell you. But, yeah, nothing much to it. But there's ways of doing this so that way you can actually have the music not connected directly to you. Because, perfect example, I'm partying all the time. I don't want to, you know, be sitting there like trying to dance and be like, oh, ripped out my wire, my bad. So there's a couple good ways of implementing this stuff. So all the wiring is on the back side, and since it's meant more for right-handed, you hold it like this, so a lot of wiring is more hidden towards you. That's another thing you got to keep in mind if you're actually putting like audio in or connecting a bunch of stuff together. You want to try to keep those wires hidden, because wires are going to be in your way. It's going to make your stuff look a little, I don't know, not too great, because you're going to wires things. No one wants that. So just got to find a way to actually like implement wires all connected there. Like we got a blue splitter, yeah, connected there, and then I'll walk around and show everyone this. So how I actually get the music connected over the speakers is I use a Bluetooth splitter, which is super helpful. They're only like 30 bucks. So I'll kind of walk around and show you guys. So Bluetooth splitter, it's super helpful because then you can connect all the other wires to the actual speaker, or you can connect it to the splitter, and that way you can actually connect all your stuff to your phone or whatever you're using. So that way you don't have to, like I said, have a bunch of wires, because that's just annoying. I don't know if you guys agree, but wires annoying. So try to get rid of them as much as I can. So show you, my man. Yeah, so I have one of these on my speaker gun, obviously, and then I have one in my helmet, which is super helpful because less wires the better, like I keep saying. So, and then I'll kind of explain this. So, for those who I haven't already talked to about it, because I've talked to many of you about it, y'all thought it was pretty cool. But I'll kind of explain the general idea of this. So, first off, yes, this is an actual subwoofer box. It's very heavy, it's like 10, 15 pounds. So, and yes, I still party with it all day. But what I did, once again, I'll kind of walk around with this. Sorry if I blind people. But I have a lot of padding in there. So, no, I'm not going deaf in there, I promise. So, got a lot of padding inside there. So that way, it protects my hearing and it keeps my head comfortable. So, I'll unplug that light so I don't blind y'all. So, got plenty of padding in there. So that way, keeps my head warm, keeps it comfortable. And that way, at the same time, it hides all the wires in there because, once again, wires, no fun. So, I hid all of them underneath there so that way my head's not being jabbed on wires. So, pretty cool. At least I think so. And then I would just use plenty of padding and then I taped all the other stuff in the back of the helmet. So that way I don't have a power bank and a splitter bouncing around my head all day. So it's all locked in one firm place. And that way it is generally, a good time. So what's the point of partying with a big speaker? They're gonna be irritated the entire time, So, but I'd say a couple other things I do want to talk about is I'll break this out. So I was going to use this if we didn't have mics, but we do, so I can use that out. This is one of those things that I was kind of talking about before with like maybe an intercom. These are super helpful. I plan on putting one of these in this helmet so you can all hear me. Because for a lot of you, probably, I don't know how many of you actually use like big helmets where your like whole face is covered. But it's super hard to talk out of it and half the time people can't hear what you're saying. So that's fun. But so what having an intercom is awesome for is I'm trying not to get feedback from my mics right here. But if you can fit that in there and you get something like this, that way you can actually in your helmet have a nice intercom, kind of adjust it whatever distance you need. And that way people will actually be able to hear you in your helmet. Obviously this one's a bit large compared to some other ones. Like for example, this ODST guy was walking around early and he had one in there and it's awesome. But if you have something like this just so people can hear you better if you're wearing a helmet, that's also another nice thing to do. Like that's another nice piece of tech to keep in your like arsenal of other junk. So having an intercom or a PA system or anything like that, just like it's super helpful to just keep on you if you have some sort of helmet where you know you're gonna have trouble actually like talking to others with it on. So a good way to kind of hide this is you can either implement it into your helmet somehow, or what I might do later if it gets really loud is I'll move over here so I don't get feedback again. But pretty much you could do something like I have a little pouch back here. I could always slip it in here if I wanted to. So that way, obviously I'm cracking it right now, but I keep it on there so that way when I'm walking around, like if people need to hear what I'm saying, you can still generally hear what I'm saying even if I have that whole helmet on. And because it's such a small little thing that goes around my head, it's really easy to actually, like, it's easy to fit in without it like rubbing against you and like squeezing your head. So intercom definitely a plus if you're trying to do some other like tech stuff. So, but for the most part, I'd say the hardest part about all of this, because I suggested a bunch of ways to put that stuff in there, but I'd say the main two hardest parts are actually finding what stuff you want to put in and how you want to actually implement it in. Because I say finding it is hard because you gotta figure out exactly what stuff you want to use. It might just be something from Walmart that you can find. Like, that's where I got this speaker, that's where I got half these speakers. Like, just something that you can get from Walmart or whatever, or Amazon, or something easy. It's just right there. But if you want to do something specific, like, luckily for me, I figured out my idea with these speakers. So I actually had one of these a long time ago, and then I remembered, then I wanted to make a helmet like this, and I'm like, wait, don't I have like a speaker I can use to like make a speaker helmet? So I went online, found the same type of speaker, and I ended up buying another one. And the reason why I use these two specific speakers, first off, these two speakers are super affordable. It's $20 a piece for each, and I think they're pretty good sounding and pretty loud for only 20 bucks. So, second reason why I got it, these speakers, they're obviously attached to the helmet right now, but if you would hold one in just your hand, it'd be lighter than this speaker. It's ridiculous. I don't know how they did it, but it's just super light and it's super loud and it's super nice. But that's the type of stuff you gotta actually keep in mind if you're gonna be putting audio like physically on you or anything. You wanna make sure it's actually able to like be put on your stuff correctly without falling off. Like, for example, if I was lazy with like but because I didn't want to throw it. But you just gotta make sure you find a good way to like connect it. Like, perfect example, even though these are still loose, I have 3 screws drilled into it and tape and everything going on just to make sure it doesn't fall. But pretty much it's a matter of making sure you can connect to your cosplayers. If you're doing audio, you want to make sure that it's loud enough so others can hear it and it's not just you or something. Unless that's what you're going for, then yeah, already. But for the most part, if you want others to hear your music, you want to make sure that you can actually, where it's loud enough for others to hear it. The perfect example, shout out Blackwood. This speaker is awesome. So it's a nice rugged little speaker. It's a little big for some people, but this thing can be crazy loud. So nice. Like, this is my everywhere speaker, and it's loud enough where I took it on a boat and we used that as our music, and even over the car, like the motor and stuff, everyone could hear the audio fine. So that's something you gotta keep in mind too. If you get a little compact speaker, you gotta make sure that it's small enough for what you want to do, and also you want to make sure it's loud enough for what you want to do. Because once again, if you're doing personal stuff, I don't have with me, I literally have a little cube speaker that big. So it's like, you want something for yourself, find something like that, nice and small. If you want something that'll actually be heard by others, just make sure you do your research before you go and buy stuff, because I've had multiple people actually ask me, long story short, all these speakers up here, this is only like a fifth of what I have. I've had like 50, 60 plus Bluetooth speakers, and I have like hundreds of headphones. I am really into high-end stuff. So people come to me and ask me like, oh yeah, like, is this speaker good? And I'm like, yeah, it's good, but it's kind of quiet, blah, blah, stuff like that. So you just gotta be careful what you want. And then plus other speakers have other features, like I don't have a speaker on me that has that ability, but if you find a speaker, like I know Insignia makes some that have an actual power bank built in, if you want something like that, that's really cool. Plus the Insignia ones have super good bass, so if you're into that, or if you just want your own personal speaker, do that. But mainly, if you're doing audio specifically, move on the lights, I swear, I'm not going to talk about speakers the entire time. But if you want to do audio at a convention, make sure it's loud enough. Also, be respectful about the music too. I know I was talking about PG-ish music and then play whatever you want later, but I'm also talking about if there's a lot of people super crowded, try not to keep your music all the way up. Like, I try to turn mine down, especially when I'm coming into someplace that's super compact, because I don't feel like, because I have a bunch of padding in there. People think I'm going deaf. I'm making you guys deaf by mistake. So whenever I walk in a room and it's really packed, I try to turn it down a bit so that way I don't deafen you guys, because you know that kind of sucks. Like, oh yeah, breaking news, SpeakerHead deafens 50 people at convention. Don't feel like having that on my record. So, but pretty much stuff like, just gotta make sure, be aware of your surroundings, especially since I have horns. I gotta make sure I'm not hitting people with them by mistake. I've already hit him twice. So, but for the most part, just be careful with your audio. Make sure that it's what you actually want and what you plan on using for. The speaker will fit those needs. Like, I'll give one final example. For the speaker gun, I had to make sure it looks pretty crappy right now, so it's not the greatest. But the reason why I have these specific speakers, I could have chose one of my other many speakers, but the reason why I chose these is because of the connector placement. And connector placement in stuff like this is super, super important. And I'll explain why. So, if you have, for example, if you have a connector, well, I'll actually get to the speakers first. So if you want to have something like this where you have all the speakers facing the same way, you gotta make sure all the connectors aren't gonna be in really awkward places. Perfect example, like, I don't want connectors to be on the inside, because if I was gluing on these sides, if it's on the inside of the speaker, I can't really charge it now, can I? So that's a good example for if you have it like on the bottom or on the top. So like I said, so connection is the main key factor to all this. So perfect example, I use this one as the butt stock just because its charging port and stuff are on the bottom, so it won't get in the way, and that way I can run. I don't have a connector because this fell off this morning, and I knew it totally was going to, because terrible planning. But pretty much how I had it, I had a wire, I had it looped around this tape right here, and then I had it connected under here, so that way you don't see extra wires dangling underneath, or try to make it as minimal as possible. So then from this speaker, since it was connected to the bottom, I also had this Sony one put in the middle. And the reason why I had the Sony one put in the middle, it's covered in wires, but the connection points are all right here and here, so I can still charge it and it won't get in the way, and it just all works out nice. Plus it's longer, and I kind of like this speaker specifically because it has a lot of bass and it's really clear sound, so this is kind of like my bass portion of the entire gun. And then for this one, the AMKE speaker, the ports are all on top. I could have put it top or bottom, but I preferred to actually, no, I had to put it on like this with the points facing up. For this reason too, if you have buttons on your speaker, perfect example, buttons on this one, buttons on top. This one's buttons, it's hard to see, and I'll try to walk around and show you, but the power button, if I had it opposite, I would not be able to click that power button if it was glued up top. So I can still hit the plus and minus volume even though it's a little covered up, but at the same time, I can still hit the power button and turn that speaker on and turn them on with the rest. So that way I can actually get all the sound that I'm trying to go for and not just kind of, you know, oh yeah, I have a bunch of speakers but only 2 work. So it's kind of a bummer. But then, once again, depending on what you're doing, you might need some stupidly long speaker like that. And it's a regular, or it's very similar to like the soundbar speakers you use for your television and TVs and stuff. But this one's nice because it's Bluetooth and it has a battery built into it, so I don't have to keep it plugged in with any like power bank or anything. So that's super nice about that. And it's nice on the adjustment because it's super easy. That's another thing if you get a speaker, don't get one that's super complicated. Those are the worst. Get something easy. So like this one, all you do, you just twist it, comes on. Twist it, turns off. Nice and easy. Volume and everything is all adjusted on there. Can't switch tunes on this one, but you know, depending on what you're using it for, you might just do it with your phone like I do. But yeah, so that's something you just gotta be careful for if you're making anything with audio. Just make sure you actually have a good spot for connections so nothing gets covered up. And finally, I'll move on to lights and implementing that again. So, like I already told you about, you got the different types of lights, but the main thing you gotta keep in mind of is how to power these, because you can get lights that already have like internal batteries like connected to them. Like for example, this has a battery pack connected to it, so that way you don't have to have anything extra powering it. You just use the battery pack, and then you just keep an extra pair of double A's with you or something. Or you can get rechargeables, which couldn't find my rechargeables. Give me a break. House is messy. But I couldn't find my rechargeables, but I got other batteries in there, so I can power those up throughout the entire day. And then powering these lights up, the front lights and the back lights are USB powered. And that's what I was trying to say before, but I kept it simple. I could have soldered it up to like batteries and made it all cool and stuff and like way less wiring. But I decided to keep it simple, so that way if I need to replace anything, I can. But for the most part, just keep in mind, make sure you have enough power to power the lights, and this goes for the speakers too. So obviously all this would not be that fun if it was more like this, walking around. If I can turn that off, there. That's not that fun. Like if it dies halfway through the day, like it sucks. Like perfect example, if I got here at like 9 and my speaker stuff died by now, that sucks. You don't want that stuff. You want to make sure all your stuff is charged fully, has enough battery life where it'll make it through like a full day or whatever without charging. Or if you know it's not going to make it a full day, keep a power bank with you. Like I had 2 with me yesterday, but I only got 1 today. But make sure you got I have a 15,000 milliamp power bank, charge it, like ready to charge up speakers if I need it. I have a 10,000 milliamp power bank powering up the lights. Those will last all day. Like I think I checked it at 9 o'clock last night, and I got it at 10:30, it's like 50%. So make sure you got enough power to actually like light your lights or power your speakers, whatever